Today on Inquirer, Sandiganbayan junks bid of Marcos family to recover properties seized in their dismissed 200 billion peso civil forfeiture case. Senate begins debates on the controversial Maharlika Investment Fund.
Yung penal provision po, ridiculously napakababa. Considering na yung Maharlika Investment Fund mag-handle ng billions of pesos.
PNP Chief General Rodolfo Azurin Jr. to lead 5-member committee to review PNP top brass. And Metro Manila mayors approve single ticketing system. Good evening. For our top story, the Sandiganbayan has junked the plea by former First Lady Imelda Marcos and her daughter Irene to recover the property sequestered from them in their dismissed 200 billion peso civil forfeiture case. In a 40-page resolution dated January 25, the court's 4th Division said the motion by the two members of the Marcos family seeking the return of the properties declared as ill-gotten and sequestered by the Presidential Commission on Good Government was junked for lack of merit. Following the dismissal of the said case in 2019, the Marcoses said that the freeze orders and sequestration on assets and the properties could now be lifted. In their motion on August 5 last year, the older Marcos and Irene sought the return of the recovered properties, which were denominated as frozen accounts, surrendered by virtue of compromise agreements, sequestered but not in the PCGG's custody, and those that were sequestered under the PCGG's control and supervision. However, the Sandiganbayan in its resolution has said that it was timely for the PCGG to file an appeal on the dismissed case at the Supreme Court in August last year, which made the decision junking the case as not yet final. The court also said that the Marcoses offered no proof or reason how the properties subject of this case are being dissipated. President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos, the son of Imelda Marcos, has yet to issue a comment on the issue. The Senate began debating on the controversial Maharlika Investment Fund bills today. To tell us more, here's our Senate reporter Daniza Fernandez reporting live. Daniza?
The Senate began debating on the controversial Maharlika Investment Fund bills on Wednesday. Senate Bill number 1670 and House Bill number 6608, measures seeking the fund's creation, were discussed by the Senate Committee on Banks, Financial Institutions and Currencies, which is chaired by Senator Mark Villar. Under the bill, among the sources of seed money for the Maharlika Investment Fund would be the Land Bank of the Philippines, the Development Bank of the Philippines or DBP, and the declared dividends of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. During the panel hearing, Senator Risa Hontiveros spoke out against the ridiculously low sanctions for violators of the Maharlika Investment Fund policies to ensure accountability of public officials who will handle the funds. Hontiveros criticized the fines as being insufficient for a fund worth billions of pesos. She noted that the bill has no penal provision for forfeiture of ill-gotten wealth in favor of the government, no perpetual disqualification from public office for offenses committed by government officials who are part of the Maharlika Investment Corporation Board, and no provision in the event that funds would be used for money laundering. Finance Secretary Benjamin Jokno responded that it is up to the lawmakers to impose a higher penalty if needed. Under Senate Bill number 1670, penalties range from 10,000 pesos to 5 million pesos. Imprisonment, meanwhile, will be from 6 years to 20 years. On the other hand, House Bill number 6608 penalizes violators with fines amounting to 50,000 pesos to 2 million pesos and imprisonment of 1 year to 5 years. In the meantime, Senator Francis Escudero said that the current Senate and House versions of the proposed Maharlika Investment Fund law are not up to par and need further modifications before they can pass in the upper chamber. In an interview at the Senate after the hearing, Escudero revealed that if the voting on the bill were to happen now, he would cast a negative vote. For Escudero, there is a big chance that the Senate version will be different from the House bill, which already hurdled the lower chamber in December last year. Escudero said there are several loopholes in the bills, such as obliging the Land Bank and the DBP to contribute to the fund. Senate Bill number 1670 was filed by Villar, while House Bill number 6608 was sponsored by Ilocos Norte 1st District Representative Ferdinand Alexander Sandro Marcos and House Speaker Martin Romualdez. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. earlier certified the House's Maharlika Investment Fund as urgent.
Denisa, I understand that we are still, the Senate is still in the early stages of a discussion regarding this measure. You also know that over at the House, this has already been passed on third and final reading. So how about there in the Senate? So what is the mood like? What is the reception like for this measure? In terms of timeline, do they have a timeline as to when they are going to pass or maybe make a decision on this matter?
Neil, during the hearing earlier, several senators raised questions on the bills like Hontiveros, Escudero, and Senator Sherwin Gatchalian. But Villar, who filed the Senate version, did not express any reservations. Senate President over chamber, but he assured the public that it won't be rushed. Zubiri told Villar to draft a panel report before the Senate break by the end of March in order for other senators to review it.
So, please correct me if I'm wrong, Denisa. We are still in the committee level discussion, right? So, it still has to be passed over at the committee level before it can reach the plenary for subsequent approval or maybe disapproval, right?
Yes, Neil, the committee will have to submit a committee report which will be transmitted to the plenary, and then it will be discussed on the floor before it will be approved on final reading.
Okay. Thanks, Denisa. That's Denisa Fernandez reporting live. Philippine National Police Chief General Rodolfo Azurin Jr. will head the 5-member committee created to examine the PNP's top echelon, according to Interior Secretary Benher Abalos. Beatriz Pinlac fills us in with the details. Babe?
Neil, Interior Secretary Benjamin Abalos Jr. revealed Azurin's name as well as 2 other members of the panel, former Defense Secretary Gilbert Teodoro Jr. and retired Police General Isagani Neres. They will be joining Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalong, who was the first member of the panel to be announced. The last member, however, was not named by Abalos, who noted that the 5th to join the body requested that his identity be withheld. While 12 of the 955 PNP generals and colonels did not file their courtesy resignations ahead of the January 31 deadline, Abalos pointed out that technically only 1 top-ranking police officer did not heed his call. This, he explained, is because among those 12, 5 have already retired, while the remaining 6 are set to retire in the next few months. Azurin, for his part, recognized the very challenging and daunting task, and he then allayed fears of the senior PNP officers as he promised that the review to be conducted will be fair, objective, and judicious at all stages, making sure that zero tolerance for personal biases and political color shall be observed. It was in early January when Abalos first publicly appealed for all the top PNP officials to turn in their courtesy resignations and subject themselves to an evaluation as part of the government's very radical approach of weeding out officers allegedly involved in the drug trade. But even without the call for the courtesy resignations of high-ranking police officers in the country, Abalos said the PNP will regularly monitor and investigate its personnel who are found engaged in illegal activities. Neil?
Bay, so let's go back a bit as to the reason why we're talking about this in the first place. So, the certain police high-ranking officials were asked to submit courtesy resignation so that we can evaluate whether they have links to illegal drug trade, right? But here we are now. We create a 5-person committee that will evaluate these officials. And one of the members would be PNP Chief General Rodolfo Azurin, who was among the police officials who submitted courtesy resignation. So how will that work? How will he evaluate himself in that case?
Actually, Interior Secretary Abalos earlier said that Azurin was actually already screened and Marcos did not accept his courtesy resignation. which basically means that he was cleared from any possible ties to the illegal drug trade. According to Abalos, Azurin is needed there in the committee to steer the panel and to possibly give up-to-date intelligence reports. He, however, did not disclose who exactly was in charge of evaluating the PNP chief, but he did say that the Azurin-led committee is expected to finish its evaluation of the top PNP officers in about 3 months.
Okay, thanks, Bay. That's Beatrice Pinlac reporting live. The Metro Manila Council, or the MMC, has passed the Metro Manila Traffic Code, which paves the way for the implementation of the single ticketing system across the National Capital Region. This came after the MMC, composed of all 17 Metro Manila mayors, conducted a hearing at the Metro Manila Development Authority's headquarters in Pasig City. According to MMDA Acting Chairman Don Artes, the purpose of the single ticketing system is to centralize penalties and to avoid confusion between motorists. It also aims to make paying fines easier by allowing online payment methods. In terms of when the new ticketing system will be effective, Artes said that each local government unit needs to implement its own ordinances. MMC President and San Juan City Mayor Francis Zamora, for his part, said that Metro Manila mayors have already agreed to amend their respective ordinances in accordance with the new traffic code by March 15. The said code lists a total of 20 common violations, which include disregarding traffic signs, illegal parking, number coding violation, truck ban, reckless driving, tricycle ban, obstruction, overloading, and defective motor vehicle accessories. Next on Inquirer Today, Filipino comfort women issue not expected to be raised during President Bongbong Marcos' visit to Japan next week, according to the DFA. One tropical cyclone expected in February, according to Pagasa. And President Bongbong Marcos approves creation of Water Resource Management Office. This is Inquirer Today. We'll be back shortly.
Ako si Eloise Jill Cadilo. Currently, student ako sa UP, pero at the same time, nagtatattoo ako sa sining tinta. Personally, na nagpapatattoo ako, hindi ako ganun ka-comfortable doon. So, naisip ko, lahat ng hindi ako comfortable with, iibahin ko siya. Light lang yung curation ng space para hindi ka natatakot pag nagpapatattoo ka, lalo na't masakit kasi magpatattoo. Nag-start ako mag-tattoo, hindi dahil gusto ko mag-tattoo. Bale, gusto kong kumuha ng tattoo. Pero at the same time, hindi ko afford yung artist na gusto ko. So parang inisip ko, bakit hindi nala ako magpaturo sa previous tattoo artist ko? Tapos, i-design ko yung tattoo ko and then ako gagawa sa sarili ko. Tapos, from there, yung una kong natatuan ay yung sarili ko din. So, mas naramdaman ko yung difference sa practice skin and sa skin nung ginagawa ko na sa sarili ko. Nagtatattoo lang ako sa apartment namin sa Kamuning. Tapos, marami na din kasi akong friends nagpapatattoo nun. Tapos at the same time, yung friends nila, gano'n. Hindi kaya ng space ko kasi sobrang liit lang talaga nun. Tapos mainit. Tapos, ayun, lumaki na lang siya kasi nung nag-start akong mag-tattoo, somehow may na-meet akong mga other women artists. Tapos doon namin nabuo na parang women's space talaga siya. Ganun. Sining tinta kapag English, ink art. Ganon. Yung pinaka tagline kasi is malaya at mapagpalayang sining. Tapos, at the same time, yung artists ay puro women. Kasi marami sa clients ko previously, nagkakwento na they don't feel safe kapag puro male yung artists nila, ganon. May ganong stories. I want to take that scare away, ganon, yung that intimidation. And the only way na I can do it is if we strictly, create a space na women artists lang din talaga. Future, we want to be able to expand this industry na mas maging accepting siya sa women artists na gusto pumasok sa pagtatattoo. Tapos, at the same time, sa mga clients namin, we want to break stereotypes. Makakapasok ka sa mga work institutions na may tattoo ka, gano'n. Tapos, hindi ka madidiscriminate for it or walang notion of yung usual na iniisip nila na madumi yung balat mo. Mas accepting yung society sa people with tattoos and people who engaged in tattoos and piercings.
Up to one tropical cyclone may be experienced for the month of February, according to the State Weather Bureau. Joining us live is Pagasa weather specialist Benison Estarea. Sir Benison, uulanin na naman ba tayo sa mga darating na araw?
Yes, good evening, Sir Neil, and to all our viewers and listeners. As of now, we are expecting the weakening of the northeast monsoon or amihan. So in the next 24 hours, we're expecting partly cloudy to cloudy skies over most of Luzon and Visayas, and there are chances of only light rains, brief light rains lamang po yan. Whereas for Mindanao, generally fair weather conditions din po by tomorrow, and then we're expecting some localized thunderstorms o yung mga pagkidlat pagkulog na wala naman po kinalaman sa mga weather disturbance like low pressure area or bagyo. So in the coming days, bagamat tulad ng nabanggit nga ninyo, is possible yung hanggang isang bagyo for February. For the next few days or hanggang sa weekend, mababa po ang chance na magkaroon tayo ng unang weather disturbance na papasok ng ating Philippine Area of Responsibility. And bukod dyan, dahil sa paghina nga ng northeast monsoon natin, konting lugar na lamang po yung merong gale warning o yung mga matataas na mga pag-alon. For now, up to 4.5 meters ang inaasahan dito sa northern and eastern coast ng Catanduanes, sa northern and eastern coast of northern Samar at sa eastern coast of eastern Samar. So delikado pa rin po ang pumalaot doon para sa mga mangingisda and small sea vessels. At yan muna ang latest po mula dito sa weather forecasting ng Pag-asa.
Sir Benison, isang tanong lang, nabanggit nyo kanina yung tungkol dito sa northeast monsoon. Kung tama yung aking pagkakaintindi, indikasyon po ba ito na papalapit na tayo doon sa sinasabi nating tag-init?
Yes po, tama yung narinig nyo. For now, ay humihina yung amihan natin but not necessarily tuluyan na tayong magta-transition into a warm, dry season. So we're expecting na magkakaroon pa rin ng mga multiple surges hanggang sa unang bahagi po ng March.
Okay, maraming salamat, sir. That's Pag-asa weather specialist Benison Estareja. The issue of Filipino comfort of women during World War II is not expected to be raised during President Bongbong Marcos' visit to Japan next week, according to the Department of Foreign Affairs. In a palace briefing, DFA Assistant Secretary Neil Imperial said that the matter is already considered, quote, settled, citing the 1956 reparations agreement with Japan. Imperial added, however, that the Philippine government, quote, will not prevent private claims should such actions be pursued by victims on their behalf.
We don't expect it to be raised, but the position of the Philippines on this issue is that compensation claims by former comfort women is considered to be already settled, as far as the government is concerned.
Imperial also noted that the deportation of Japanese nationals allegedly involved in robberies in Japan will not affect Marcos' trip. He said it is not expected to be raised during Marcos's meeting with Kishida, adding that the matter is a consular issue and is already being handled by the Department of Justice, the Japanese embassy here, and the Philippine embassy in Tokyo, Japan. The DOJ earlier said it will try to expedite the deportation of the Japanese citizens, including the alleged mastermind Luffy. The Japanese individuals were allegedly involved in remotely running a string of robberies in Japan while detained in an immigration facility in Manila using an encrypted messaging app. Meanwhile, 7 key bilateral agreements are expected to be signed during the visit. The DFA said that the agreements will cover cooperation in infrastructure development, defense, agriculture, and information and communications technology areas. Marcos will go to Japan for a 5-day working visit from February 8 to 12, his first visit to the East Asian country.
The official working visit is expected to reaffirm the strong and vibrant relations between the two countries. It also seeks to maximize the full potential of the Philippines-Japan strategic partnership in all its aspects and facilitate closer defense, security, political, economic, and people-to-people ties.
President Bongbong Marcos has approved the creation of a Water Resource Management Office to manage the country's precious water resources. The Presidential Communications Office said the new office would also handle ecological threats through a combined government effort with the support of all sectors of society. During the multi-sectoral meeting in Malacanang, Marcos discussed the importance of planning with regard to water management, pointing out the need for a plan that will serve as a roadmap for waste management agencies. The WRMO will be established under the DENR and serve as a temporary body while the Water Resources Department is being created. The WMRO's main functions include formulating and ensuring the implementation of the Integrated Water Management Plan, which will integrate various plans of different agencies, according to the PCO. Alamin naman natin ang mainit na balita sa mundo ng showbiz kasama si Irvin Santiago. Irvin?
Hi Neil at sa lahat mga kabandera natin all over the universe. Ito na nga ang latest Bandera Chika. Mukhang inaala talaga ngayon ang TV host, actress at vlogger na si Alex Gonzaga dahil sa sunod-sunod na kontrobersyang kinasasangkutan niya. Matapos mabash at manega ng bonggang-bongga dahil sa pamamahid niya ng cake sa mukha ng isang waiter, ay may bago na namang issue sa sisteraka ni Tony Gonzaga. Hindi pa man tuluyang namamatay ang ginawa niyang pambabasto sa food server sa kanyang birthday salubong, heto't binabatikos na naman siya ng mga fans ni Nadine Lustre dahil sa mga revelasyon ng veteran actress na si Dina Bonnevie. Sa halip na matapos at matuldukan na nga ang issue sa pagitan ni Nadina at Alex, ay mas nag-apoy pa ito dahil nadamay na rin ang pangalan ni Nadine. Nabanggit kasi ni Dina ang isang eksena noon habang nagte-taping sila para sa teleseryeng PS I Love You na umere sa TV5 noong 2011 kung saan nakasama nga niya sina Alex at Nadine. Nagkwento ang veteran actress sa Fast Talk with Boy Abunda tungkol sa matagal ng kwento ng paningitan niya kay Alex sa taping dahil nga palagi na lang itong late. Nabanggit ni Miss D na may isang eksena raw sila ni Alex sa serye na hindi makaiyak. Kaya sinabihan niya ang actress at TV host na kaya hindi raw siya makaiyak ay dahil wala siyang connect sa kanyang emosyon. Kasunod nito, pinagsabihan na nga niya si Alex sa pagiging unprofessional kung saan ibinuking pa niya na nagagalit pa noon ang vlogger kay Nadine Lustre dahil mas nauuna pa itong maiyak sa mga madadrama nilang eksena. At nang sagutin daw siya ng pabalang ng kapatid ni Tony, ay sinabihan niya ito ng hindi pa ipinapanganak ang mambabasto sa akin, Alex. Kaya naman bukod kay Dina at sa Fast Talk ni Tito Boy ay trending din sa social media ang pangalan ni Nadine. Talagang nag-react ang kanyang mga fans nang mapanood ang panayam ni Dina at muling ang binato ng masasakit na salita si Alex Gonzaga. Reaksyon pa nga ng isang netizen, bakit daw parang kasalanan pa ni Nadine Lustre na mas magaling siyang umiyak kesa kay Alex. In fairness, marami rin naman ang nagtanggol kay Alex na nagsabing sobra na ang pangnenega ng mga tao sa aktres lalo pat napakatagal nang nangyari ng chika ni Dina. Bakit daw kailangan pang hukayin ang matagal ng issue na wala namang maidudulot na maganda sa mundo ng showbiz? Pero komento naman ng mga bashers, dapat lang naturuan ng leksyon si Alex Gonzaga dahil sa pagiging bully niya. At yan ang Bandera Chika natin today. Thanks, Neil.
Maraming salamat, Irvin. And these are the stories you need to know today. I'm Neil Mercado. Catch Inquirer Today live weekdays at 6 p.m. Follow INQUIRER.net on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit. For more stories, visit INQUIRER.net. Good evening.